Miss Sheetal Choksi will be guiding us with a exciting panel on the topic of content to cart, how brands and retailers can turn content into commerce. Just a quick introduction about Sheetal's, and then she will just take us through a great journey of content to cart. So, Sheetal is a strategic marketing, branding, and research specialist. She has expertise to find unordinary solutions to business challenges. She is the co founder of two companies, Word Hatter, a content and communications company, and Unpacked Research, a boutique research company. She is inspired by the power of both research and content to bring about insightful and relevant change in customer behavior. And you guessed it right. That is why she is heading the panel here. So over to you, Sheetal. I will not take any more minute to kind of, we are as excited as you guys. So over to you.
Thank you, Anurima. A pleasure being here. So thank you so much. Um, hello everyone. Welcome to the Internet Commerce Virtual Summit. Like Anurima said, we're the last session, and I can't think of a better way to end a summit like this and rounding it off with the consumer and how we can engage with him. In the last few years, I think what has happened is that content and content marketing have become really buzzwords. Everyone is focusing on creating engaging, relevant content that delivers to the business. And yet there is a lot of, if I may use the word, vagueness around the subject. So what our panel really is going to do today is help us decode how content will help not just in building engagement, but also in converting consumers to buy products, build loyalty, and in the long run, have consumers become brand advocates. Before I jump into our conversation, let me do a quick introduction of our panelists. I don't even know why I'm doing the introductions. They're all so famous and popular in their own space, but they don't really need an introduction, but here's my small bit for you. Our first panelist is a lady called Marwa Soliman. Marwa, would you please come join us? Marwa is currently the Managing Director for GCC and KSA area in NEOS Bioderma, Estoderm, and Etato. Marwa, please correct me if I've got that pronunciation wrong.
You were 100% right. Thank you, Sheetal, for the nice introduction.
Marwa is a pharmacist by education and has completed her pharma degree from Cairo University. She's also done her MBA from the Arab Academy in Cairo. She has more than 20 years of experience in pharmaceutical and cosmetics as a field. Marwa, I am super excited to have this conversation with you. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
We have with us somebody who's a little away from the classical retail space, okay? Not from FMCG, not from retail. We have somebody called Farshid Master. Farshid is the Associate VP E-Business Thomas Cook. I think a lot of e-commerce players can learn from the travel business, and I think having Farshid here is a great, great pleasure.
Thank you,
Farshid is a seasoned e-commerce professional with more than 16 years of experience in enriching online customer experiences and online demand generation. His core really is about creating and building brands online and making them grow in revenues and profitability. All of you need to connect with him because that's what he does as a business. He has a keen eye on customer stickiness and online product development. He's also an expert in identifying new market opportunities and strategic alliances, both in the India market and global markets. And I've had the pleasure of working with Farshid in the past, and I must say that he's an extremely motivational leader with strong mentoring and relationship building skills. Welcome to the panel, Farshid. Pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you very much.
Our next panelist is Ankur Pujari, who is the co-founder and growth lead at Hyperconnect Asia, which is a leading digital agency based in Mumbai and has offices around the globe. He partners closely with transformation-seeking clients to develop, guide, implement digital businesses and marketing strategies. What's interesting about about Ankur is that he's also had a lot of experience outside of India, along with his India experiences. And he's always worked towards developing new products, has done integrated brand and marketing campaigns. And I think he's going to bring a lens which is very different to this conversation. So welcome, Ankur. Pleasure having you here today. We have Indranil Ghosh, who I work very closely with. He's the CEO of Wordhatter, which is a creative content communications company. Indranil has over 20 years of experience. He's done strategic communication, advertising, brand marketing. He's worked in a large number of agencies from Ambience Advertising to Lolintas McCann. And he also has the ability to understand client requirements because he's also been on that side of the business. So he's worked with Mahindra and Mahindra, Idea Cellular, and Jio. Yeah, he is a certified digital marketing and content marketing specialist. He is competent, and actually I've seen him in action formulating and implementing strategies and tactical initiatives for achieving business goals. Welcome, Indranil. Nice to have you here with me. Our final panelist, and Anand, you didn't need to be so modest. You sent me the shortest possible introduction I think I've ever received from anyone, ever. He sent me a 2-line introduction to himself. Anand heads the enterprise sales and alliances vertical at Green Honchos. He is a recent addition to the Green Honchos family. Prior to this, he was leading the SME and e-commerce vertical for Moglix, India's largest B2B platform for manufacturing and office supplies. And in the past, he's led category businesses for shopclues.com and managed the retail operations for Aditya Birla Fashion. So an out-and-out retail person. Thanks, Anand, for joining us. Loved a longer introduction, but I think you really don't need a longer introduction.
Thank you so much, Sheetal, and hello, everyone.
So a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today. And I'm going to jump straight into the conversations, guys, because we have about 40 minutes to do this. And I want to extract every bit that I can from each one of you. Ankur, I'm going to start with you. Given the fact that you have a perspective which is both India and global, and you've been in the space of digital and content for a bit, a lot of people have been talking about content, but I really want to understand from you, what has been the shift in attitude towards content? As what is it that you've seen over the last couple of years?
Sure. So that's a very interesting question, Sheetal, because there's a huge shift that has happened in this whole content space. Not last 2 years, but I would say in last 1 year more so, because we happen to work with a lot of direct-to-consumer brands. We work with brands like Marico. So today we are handling close to 4 brands in different categories, from male grooming to sanitization and healthcare to even personal skincare. For them, if they have to go out in the market, earlier the whole thing used to be a 30-seconder. Now the 30-seconder isn't enough. So what to do? So 2 years back, the answer was, let's get a 500 words blog and let's put it out and let's try to, the SEO guys would come and say, we'll have domain authority using the 500 word blog. That thing has changed completely now. Now content is more holistic. Now we are thinking, like, for example, we are working with one of the brands that we're working, they want to build the authority on macadamia nuts for skincare. Or, they want to build that when it's a female hygiene brand, there are so many questions that that consumers have around how to use an intimate wash for that matter. So now clients are looking for very, very serious communication solutions around it. So, they range from not just blogs, but reviews, infographics, listicles, and video-led content, getting the influencers and also. So content, the spectrum of content has suddenly become very huge for clients in last 1 year primarily. We even saw that with Club Mahindra, because travel was something that they were not able to sort of break through with an ad. So, content for a travel portal fighting with the mites of from Airbnb to your Make My Trip, to everyone, they're fighting up for this, at least for the travel space. in the mindset. So
Correct.
the seriousness has increased. The spectrum to look at content from what lens beyond a blog, that
Correct.
has become, very, very prominent in my
Okay.
experience.
Okay. Anand, you do a lot of consulting, etc. Any add-ons that you want to do with what Ankur just told us in terms of uh, the shifts in content, the trend?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, like I pretty much second what Ankur said, and it's really kind of is what exactly is happening, and uh, what I've seen of late, over these years is that even the approach to the content has changed. For businesses that are not so much so B2C oriented as well. So not only has the change come for players who are directly aiming for consumers, but also where the business content is getting created, that has also kind of changed a lot. There's a lot more focus on it's not only just a technical jargon that you just put it. It's also more about the keywords that you're putting in. You want to be ranked up there because of late the content has increased, and it's not just, I will not just say about written content and specifically in English, but there has been a lot of focus which has happened in the vernacular content, and reaching out to the masses now. So I've spent a lot of time with the MSMEs. So here, when we generally start talking about content or digital marketing, we, in our circle, we only focus on the large enterprise clients, which are very well versed with the language and the tools. But when you talk about
Correct.
the deeper markets of India and where the next set of growth is supposed to happen, the vernacular content kind of takes kind of prominence, and that is where the focus has started coming in. Businesses are now focusing that, okay, in their team of content writers, they need to have somebody who is well versed with other languages beyond English.
Correct.
So that has also started coming in. It's pretty much in line with the focus. The spend on content marketing has increased for businesses.
Okay.
I think more than, I was just kind of reading reports, more than 50% of the businesses today started spending more than 20% of the marketing budgets on content, which was not seen before. It was all paid, or even, it was just there that you wanted to be there on the SEO front. That is why you were doing some content, but now it has gone beyond that. You're looking to reduce your CAC, and that is where content is kind of working for you. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
Farshid, Thomas Cook has been way ahead of the curve, right? As far as content was concerned, you've been leveraging content for I don't know how long. And just to understand that, and I'm going to keep aside the COVID, but from your point of view, are there new trends that you're seeing in content which have, like they all said, which is moving beyond the blog, which is moving beyond just SEO?
Sure. So, what Ankur and Anand just said, exactly that's what is, not only getting replicated in the travel industry, but I guess across board. As Anand mentioned, localization in terms of local language content is gaining tremendous traction, and that is also gaining at our end in terms of Hindi content, in terms of Marathi, Bengali, and we've put our hands in those as well. Also, with respect to spectrum of content, as one of y'all said, that the spectrum is increased from just writing blogs. Yes, of course, it becomes very important for you to kind of be there in terms of textual content, but image, videos, and dissemination of this content across the platform, across an e-commerce channel, is dependent on where you want to show what. So
Correct.
we are currently experimenting on putting videos on a search result page where you've got, say, 50 packages for a particular destination. Now, how to showcase it to the consumer? It's very important to not be, not confuse the person, at the same time be there. So that's one of the things which we've delved into. And I'm a firm believer also of the fact that there needs to be a balance between the SEO lens and the content lens, because it's a two-way sword, right? The SEO guy wants to put as many keywords as he can, and increase as much keyword density as he can, right? what happens there is you write a piece of content with so many keywords and so much keyword density that you lose the that you lose the charm of the content written, and that in effect reduces the shareability and the engagement of the content, and that in effect will again not get you up in SEO, which you primarily wanted. So and at the same time you write a beautiful piece of content, but somebody just forgot to consult SEO. So so somebody, and then 2 weeks later, or when you're doing reviews and somebody says this was such an amazing piece of content, and why didn't it gain traction? Oh, and you raise your hand and say, oh, you didn't consult, you just wrote something really nice. So it's a two-way sword there, as I said. So now it's very important for you to strike a very good balance in terms of keywords. But as Anand said, right now it's not only about text anymore. It's more to do with videos. And another thing which I have seen, say in the last 1.5 year, is this: when you've started seeing content in this variety of spectrum, technology plays a very big role. So I can't today go and say, today video is gaining traction, so let's go on thomascook.in and everywhere the consumer goes, let's put up videos. My server will crash. So it's not that easy, right? Because with the kind of people coming on your website, you need to be cautious of the fact where are you using what content. Another thing was on as they said, everywhere content is different. It is becomes so integral and so important to understand the value of content across channels like WhatsApp. It's become conversational commerce. So it needs content which which is different from a blog content which I inspire and I dream of in travel.
So hold on, Farshid. I'm going to take that conversational content and go to Marva. Marva, it's very interesting, and I'm glad a man is talking about conversations. I rarely hear that. Sorry, guys. But content in the past, and as content writers, both Indraneel and I know that we were constantly doing what we call brand monologues, right? Because it's the brand speaking what they want to say. But the consumer has been looking for conversations and dialogue. And my question to you is, how do you as a brand bring the shift from monologues to dialogues?
It's a very interesting question, Sheetal. Actually, I was thinking a lot behind it because my industry is a little bit different. We don't work B2C only. We work B2C and B2B.
Right.
And creating dialogue or interactive content in B2B market is probably 10 times harder than B2C.
Agreed.
So I will tell you simply what we learned in the last time. We had the normal path of development. We started either B2C or B2B with face-to-face content only, which was already dialogue because you are talking to a consumer or you are talking to a stakeholder like healthcare professional, for example. And then you started, the people start to not to have time. So you start to transfer this dialogue into the digital arena.
Correct.
And in the digital arena, it's more challenging because you are not sure that he's even receiving either a consumer or a healthcare professional. So we started to learn a lot how to develop dialogue content, starting from very simple, what is called AV actions, digital AV actions, or webinars, or some polls, some survey in the currently available monologue content.
Correct.
Let's say repurposing our content, the live chats with dialogue style, which you can invite also some consumers on it. In addition to the WhatsApp, I heard Farshid talking about the WhatsApp because the WhatsApp actually working in a very good shape in the industry currently as the main source of bringing consumer, the main source of sales, let's say. And it is also even on the level of a B2B, it's also very effective. However, there is a very, let's say, a critical learning here. Which type of content, how many words you even type on the WhatsApp, which type of topic you may tackle on a webinar or a live chat or whatever. So how short your content is, how creative your content is, and how personalized. Because in insertion of personalization and emotions inside your content is very important. However, it's very challenging as well, because if you have, for example, 10 target segments, you need to know exactly what is the need of every target segment, and this requires a huge data. In GCC and Middle East in general, we are a little bit couple of steps back from India in this arena. You know, we are not yet into the big data area, into the more digital arena. So we do the stuff in a little bit, you know, we are still creeping in that.
Correct.
However, also what is a very important learning is taking a specialist, because we use that the content creation is go to the digital people, sometimes to the marketing people, whoever will be there, he will create a content, you know.
Correct.
And then let's see if the content is good or bad, and let's try and error. Availability of a very specialized copywriter and content creation is very important. Linking this to which platform exactly is very important, because not every platform having the same content. And take an observant eye, because consumers are changing very quickly.
Correct.
So you need to observe every target segment. What is which content is resonating with which target segment, and then build on that. And the last learning is you need always to put in your mind what's next, because the cluttering is, the crowd is very active, and at a certain point, you may get out of all your weapons. What else should I put?
Correct.
So
that's so true. And, you know, it's really true. It's not just about the monologue to dialogue. It's also about the personalization. I think consumers are now fed up. It's like the 30-second advertisement, which earlier used to treat me like one slot, and now content is headed in the same way. Ankur, I'm going to come to you and ask you about this, because, you know, the more data you have, and I'm seeing this also as a problem, because a lot of clients have a lot of data, but the ability to dissect the data and get insight seems to be a little challenged, whether it's India, whether it's the global or around. How do you therefore tackle large amounts of data, convert it into insights, and therefore have customization or personalization? How does that journey work for brands and for digital agencies? Ankur, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was.
Yeah.
So coming from an agency side, I think the first step that we do it, and most of the times when all clients have data and that data sort of resides in different silos, the first thing that we suggest them is to sort of bring all the relevant data on one platform, so that we have one consumer journey. That is not possible today without the help of a tool. So we use multiple tools. We recommend multiple tools. We are not sort of fixated to one tool, but whatever client is comfortable with, we sort of start planning the consumer journey with it. Parallelly, we also have a discussion with the client in terms of what is the vision of with this data, what do they want to achieve? Because I think most of the times clients fail in defining the right vision. They're trying to solve a tactical problem, and that for that tactical problem, then the solution looks very expensive, or it's not worth the effort. So if you look at a vision, that this is where I want to go with this data, then we have the right set of tools. We segment the data, and then we come up with the right set of insights that are available. And we've been pretty successful with some of the clients like Kotak Mutual Funds and all, where we use data to sort of come up with content-led platforms. So there was one platform which we sort of developed for Kotak Mutual Fund, which was Let's Plan with Kotak. The idea was to target young people who don't want to save, and the only objective of their life is to spend money. So how do you create content that is around spending money, but brings them back to tell them that here's a calculator that allows you to save money? So then that is how we have to do it. But then the vision has to be defined in that way, that what is my end objective?
Correct. So that's an interesting thing. Farshid, I'm going to come to you because a lot of the times people have, I'm also going to involve Indranil in this one. A lot of times when, as content creators, clients come to us and say, we want storytelling, right, in our content, personalization and storytelling. And there are challenges to personalization and storytelling, right? Every piece of content can't really be a story. Sometimes it's just, it has to, it's really what the objective of the content is, which will define how you will create the content. But to ask you this question, is storytelling another one of those buzzwords which will disappear in some time, or is storytelling something that you think is here for us to stay when we talk about content?
So storytelling, storytelling is always been there, will be there. It's the most apt thing because that's how life is a story, and it's to be told. So storytelling is never to go. One thing which I have seen in storytelling is for a brand to convey a particular story, it needs to take that story and be with that story for some time, or eternity is the best marketing plan in the world. But it becomes very difficult because brands change strategies and brands change objectives and visions, right, over a period of time. But if you stick to a particular story, like one classic example I remember is Nescafe. It's always stuck to a story of bringing friends together for a cup of coffee, bringing family together for a cup of coffee. And in fact, I was seeing an ad on YouTube yesterday by Nescafe Gold, and it was very, very brilliant. Again, it kind of encapsulated the Facebook world in real life, where a person comes in the auditorium and says in your lifetime you interact with 80,000 people, and then he asks questions. There are about 5 people remaining, and everybody else sits down, and then he says, come on down and let's have a cup of coffee. So storytelling in the version of taking that statement, taking that objective and keeping that objective going is the essence for a brand, because that's what will bring brand recall at a later stage.
Indranil, you want to add to that, please?
Yes, I completely agree with what Farshid just now said. I think the big question is how can, in today's attention economy age, really convert this attention into a powerful currency, through the power of storytelling. And, as Farshid said, I completely agree with that. As human beings, we are innately drawn towards storytelling because that's our psyche, that's the past. Our brains are wired that way to accept information through process of storytelling, But however, the balance that needs to be created is where do you kind of draw the line in terms of product information, brand information, and the narrative. A lot of times we see that the narrative form gets so overburdened with the marketing message that the essence of storytelling just goes away. And I think there are globally some fantastic brands who have straddled that balance so well.
Correct.
There is a brand called Patagonia who uses the storytelling under the hashtag called the stories that you wear. Every single product of theirs resonates with a consumer story, and these are user generated stories, Similarly, there is another brand called Yeti. They are like your Titan or Timex, watches, glasses, and all of that. They use a fantastic mechanism of storytelling to talk about their marketing message. And I think the biggest challenge today for me as a communication specialist is how to bring together the power of data and the power of storytelling together to really involve the consumer in an intellectual manner and an emotional manner.
Correct. Anand, do you hear a similar dialogue happening around storytelling, even with the B2B clients, even with the MSME clients? Or do you think that they still have to climb that curve to get there? Are they more still in the SEO product definition space? Where do you see that happen?
Uh, there is of course a difference. Of course, it's not exactly you can say that how this is done in a B2C space is exactly how it will happen in B2B space, because in the B2B space it's more functional. So the content has to be more functional, and in the B2C space, by content you're basically kind of telling the consumer about things. You're making that consumer aware. Whereas in the B2B context, the consumer is pretty much aware. They know what they're wanting. They're just trying to be more assured and get a little more information, which is not there. That is where you need content. So of course the approach to that content changes. But yes, storytelling, of course, is, for me, story is like, there has to be a waterfall of information that is being passed. There has to be a connect. So for me, storytelling just doesn't only mean fiction, but recently I can always talk about tools because that was what I was doing. But when you talk about a brand like a Bosch, they also have a story. The products have evolved. So from the time when they were manually operated products to wired products and to now battery operated tools, there is a story, and the consumer is also evolved with that story. So if you have the right content, only then you can make the consumer aware about how the products have evolved over a period of time. And that, again, like I said, has to be more functional. So yeah, the storytelling is there. Of course, the approach changes from a B2B to a B2C.
So also from a storytelling point of view, I'm going to take a slightly different lens, but all of us have seen, I don't know how many ads which are COVID related from brands today, right? And at one point in time, I feel like every brand has desperately jumped onto the bandwagon of COVID. Whether it's relevant to the brand, irrelevant to the brand, whether the brand has a role, not a role in the consumer's life. There's plethora. Marva, I'm going to ask you this question: that does content typically, a lot of clients will jump the bandwagon, as I say, on trends. If it's a trending subject, let's do something with it. Where do you think brands need to draw a line when it comes to jumping on the trending bandwagon, if I may call it that?
It's a very difficult question. It's really a very difficult question, because I will tell you something. As you just said, all the brands are just jumping to try to create some stories, whether it is related or not related. And we become, if you just scroll or screen, for example, all the dermocosmetics company, because this is what I'm doing on a daily basis as a part of my business. I find it's a copy-paste stories. Yes. Simply, it's a copy-paste stories. So to be honest, I prefer to be factual rather than emotional storytelling to differentiate myself from this crowd, rather than just, jumping on the truck and let's go for some emotions which will not work at all, because everyone say the same. So I think this draw line is, again, to observe what your competitor is doing, to observe which storytelling you're saying about your brand. Is it really relevant? And if you don't find the relevant storytelling, don't do it. Just be very simple, very short, and very authentic, let's say. Talk about what you really have and forget about the storytelling. It's a little bit, but this is actually what I tend to do in this clutter.
Indranil, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Marva just now said. It's also the question of what do you want your content to achieve at the end of the day?
Exactly.
Where is your consumer in the purchase funnel? Is it about getting attention, or is it about getting loyalty? Or do you as a brand want to be seen as an authoritative brand who understands, what you are talking about? And there, the act of storytelling, can do wonders for you, because the act of storytelling, like Marva said, is not about copy pasting somebody else's emotions. You have to find out what your target audience resonates best with, which form of emotion,
Correct.
And like all good fiction, your stories need to have a great opening, a middle, and a resolution.
Correct.
I'd like to add here,
I
Sheetal.
completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just
Parshi.
Go ahead,
one
go ahead.
line of adding here.
Sure.
Uh, Contextual storytelling. If it resonates with your tagline, go
Correct.
ahead and do it. Don't
Right.
even think about
Right.
it. If it
Right.
resonates, so by contextual, I think of some examples like Fevicol. I think of some examples like Amul. Uh, these brands, if they are in context to what anything is happening, and if the line or if you what you're trying to say is in that context, they just go ahead and do it.
Correct.
So if my line says "Todo nahi jodo," and anything related to the smallest kind of
Great.
any kind of fight or anything happening, I can immediately resonate my brand there. So
Correct.
contextual storytelling, if it resonates to my brand, I think we should go ahead and do it. If it doesn't resonate my brand, I'd be away from it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what even we recommend, that there has to be some guardrails. Whatever
Yes.
moment marketing you are trying to sort of ride on, it should ultimately sort of have some sort of sync with your brand vision and brand purpose and the way your brand conduct is. Because I mean, there are so many moments, and we keep telling brands that wishing for no reason. So there is a Ram Navami, and then there is a Green Day, and all brands go keep wishing them, and that's what we tell clients. What is the incremental benefit? We are not against anything, but it's not adding any value to your brand. So why do it
Right.
then?
Right.
So
Sheetal, it's very important to understand that consumers today are looking at integrity and authenticity from brands,
True.
and they can spot it out. The time that you are not clear in these messages, consumers will latch onto it.
So let me take that and leapfrog into my next question, which is when a brand needs to straddle this whole thing of integrity, authenticity. Like first she said SEO, great content and storytelling. All of that has to come together from a piece of content. How do you measure whether a piece of content is effective or not? So earlier, I know that, okay, as a content writer, and as a content company, I can say a lot of things, but I'm going to ask you guys that how does one measure? And Ankur, I'm going to come to you as a digital agency first, and then Anand, I'm going to come to you as a consulting practice next, and then I'm going to go to the clients. I want to understand what metrics, and today with the width of content going up, right? I feel we're going back to the days of advertising where nobody knew. It said somebody's watching your ad. Who the hell is watching it? God only knows. I want to understand, how do you measure effectiveness of content? Ankur, so all over to you.
So, I mean, the simplest answer to that is we first define the vision, and based on that vision for that content strategy, we have some vanity metrics. So it depends on client to client, and I'll quote categories. So when it comes to mutual funds, the role of content is to create education, because we need to create awareness around mutual funds and investment. So the metrics for judging a content are: what is my reach, what is the time spent, what is the action from there, did they engage with the calculator or not, did they read additional content or not. Or when it comes to a direct to consumer brand that we are dealing with, Marico, so there also the vanity matrix differs. For a female hygiene brand, the idea is the new products that we are introducing, how can content educate and then drive sales. And
Okay.
there are some very very promising numbers that we've had. So technically the content that we produce for them, which is in form of a branded content or a listicle or things like that, they have given us higher returns than Google ad spends in
Correct.
terms of actual sales, and these are like real numbers. We've observed them over past 90 days.
Correct.
Then when it comes to, let's say, any other brand like Tata Sky Broadband, the idea is that I create content which is primarily at the middle level of the funnel, or at the lower end of the funnel, where I just tell them that internet, if there is an internet problem, click here. So
Correct.
I dial up internet problem content, and then so metrics differ from the client to client from their objectives. What remains important is that, like Indranil mentioned, and Farshid also mentioned, that the content has to be relevant to your brand. It has to be engaging, and then automatically the other matrix will start to sort of fall in place. If these two are not there, then it's another piece of content that you've bombarded the consumer, and they're just gonna waste your effort to build the content and money to spread the content.
Correct. Anant, what do you want to add in terms of metrics? Because this is becoming a conversation with a lot of clients today, right? People are spending, like you said, more money is being spent on content. Then how do you measure whether the money that you spent is delivering ROI, the classic
Yeah.
boardroom conversation? How do you justify ROI on content?
Sheetal, in our case, I think it becomes a little more easier because, as a consultant, when we go and we approach our clients, we're just not, we're not an ad agency per se. We're basically, building a platform and then driving your entire business to scale. So, the bottom line at the end of the day for us is of course revenue which is coming. So content or SEO at the end of the day is an enabler to overall revenue. So what we when we are talking to clients, we're basically juxtaposing both the content piece with their paid marketing, and we try and see that if at all whatever we are doing in this space is having a kind of a direct impact on their CAC and on their ROAS. So for us, it pretty much kind of gets to that levels. Of course, when we get into social, the basic metrics that we are measuring for clients, we are mostly with the lifestyle clients. So that is more into social media, likes and how much engagement has happened over these platforms. But in majorly, it is to do with how we are kind of improving on their spends in performance marketing. So this is more of an enabler to that in our case.
Farshid, let me ask you this question. Content to cart is what we're talking about, right? And in the case of travel, all of us got spoiled by the Make My Trips of the world where content to cart happened very quickly, right? I'm just trying to understand that what aspects of content can one leverage to ensure that the content drives the customers to the cart? And therefore, we at least start the first conversation of ROI with it, right? And then we go to the other.
Right. First, let me spend a minute just to carry on from what Ankur and Anand said, as they correctly mentioned that each part of content which you write is kind of measured with various different matrices. I write a piece of content and attach a video to it, say on my blog or on a section where I want people to come and read it. My matrice is a very simple saying over a period of time, how I visitors increasing on that page. Is my engagement rate can be measured by saying, are my bounce rates, how much are my bounce rates than my average other pages. Over a period of time, I measure, I've put in a, subtle lead form. Is my visit to lead ratio increasing there? So one is that piece of content. Then there is second piece of content which you put it on social media. Again, there are matrices there in terms of engagement rates, likes, shares, etc. So everywhere you go, you kind of measure it with a slightly different, lens. But there is, in terms of videos on YouTube, there is a completed view, and then there is a view which is a 5-second view out of your entire view. So you measure those matrices. So content can be measured. That's one. The second thing was you mentioned what especially we do also, and we are cognizant of this, is that what Indranil mentioned, trust in a brand is very, very important. And that when it comes out in the form of content, one of the things we do on our blog is put up customer stories. People come back and, like to share their stories with pictures and videos. That brings in that trust value. People, when they come on my particular group tour package and see that, 5,500 people who have actually traveled have rated me 4 out of 5, that brings in confidence. In the current COVID times, when there are far and few destinations which are open, and when people are, going and coming back, again, putting that up on social, and that's relevant again during COVID times, that you've gone, the agency's taken care of you and you've come back safe. right? And that's what makes the difference and shifts the needle. However, the last thing I'd like to say is, there was a lot of, as you said, ambiguity in a 30-seconder. Who watched it, who didn't. In the digital world, 80% or 85 can be tracked. Let the 15 yet be ambiguity oriented. I'm a digital marketing guy. Let me live. Yeah.
I like that, but I'm going to put a very, very controversial question up here, Marwa, and I'm going to ask this because it's easy to ask a woman a controversial question. When a lot of social media started, the likes, the shares, etc., and then people figured out that likes and shares could be bought, all of that, and therefore, really, your relevant target audience was not the one whom you were getting to, right? And that started impacting, first, it started impacting how brands started to evaluate content. I just want to get your sense on where do you feel the content piece or the social media piece lets a brand down, and where do you think it allows it to be leveraged?
Okay. So if you ask me, 100% what you've said is right, because a lot I'm also asking the same question to my digital team all the time. Whether this is really our target consumer, are those likes and shares are really relevant? Are they give us revenue or not? Because by the end of the day, we are all taking care of the revenue. However, it's an easier question if you are talking about an awareness objective, because even if they are not 100% relevant consumer, I achieve my awareness objective.
Okay.
In my case, in specific, I am a very, let's say, one of the highest share of voice brands in the region. So I don't have usually the awareness objective. I need to have the content to cart objective.
Correct.
The same word you said. So it's becoming a little bit more, let's say, challenging. However, what I'm trying to do is to always do a call to action with any social media content and try to measure this call to action, whether it achieved or not. And if it achieved, it may reflect interest and content to cart. Not a must, the call to action being sales, but a call to action being a link, being visiting website, being doing something different. If they really do it, I'm convinced psychologically that it's okay, professionally that it's okay. And yeah, this is the case. And also, honestly, in general, it's very difficult to control the digital story, especially if you're talking. And I'm really feeling a lot sympathized with our digital managers here, because I feel the challenge. Whenever I start to ask them about benchmarks, for example, how do I know that this KPI is right or wrong?
Correct.
I'm okay or not. So this is also another story, which is a little bit not easy to find, even from the digital agencies. Probably in India, it's a little bit different, but in Middle East, no. If you ask about benchmark for content to cart, click-through rate, for all those KPIs, if compared to your specific industry, you will never find an answer. So it's a sense. It started to end by just a sense, just some numbers, and we see the trend. If content X is doing better than content Y, so let's go for content X, and that's it.
Okay. Good. Do you want to, as a digital agency, I'm sure this is a question every client asks of you, right? I'm giving you so much money, you're spending so much money. Now tell me that my money was well worth it. How do you tackle that? What happens?
So like I said, so when we decide the matrix, there are both sides of the matrix. You have qualitative matrix and you have quantitative matrix. So, quantitative matrix are very easy to discuss in terms of, how the content is sort of faring from the objective perspective.
Correct.
The qualitative metrics are also sort of important because, like you said, you don't get a benchmark, but you get a sense in terms of, like the time spent is a decent metrics to know that which content is working and which is not working by any person. So, taking it a little a step further. So, with some of the brands, we create content on platform and off platform for Amazon as well. And you'd be surprised for a category like hygiene category, sanitizers and all, because of that organic content, the SEO rich content that we have created on Amazon, that sort of helps us drive 80% organic sales. So, that is the impact of organic sales, because there's no, so if you look at it, there is no other trigger to drive organic sales. Okay. The only trigger is that the content that you have written is SEO rich, and the subsequent stuff that you have done beyond advertising is leading to 80% of sales coming from organic sources. So it's a balance that you have to create. You have to work with the client like an extension of their team, sort of arrive at a matrix which is achievable, at the same time which is also taking the brand up. So it should not be complacent matrix, but it should also sort of not be something that you are like, oh, you want the world with just one piece of a blog or one piece of a post. That's also not possible. So we usually tell those things to the clients upfront, that this is the content, this has the potential. At this point, we will push it further or inorganically through paid medium. If this doesn't break this, then we will not put it, because probably the content is not accepted that well, or maybe the timing is not right, or maybe the context is not relevant at this point of time. So it's an everyday thing, and that's what makes us love our job, because every day this challenge makes me think it's not like a machine, like I put a machine learning to it and then machine learning sort of starts churning out the blogs.
Correct. So let me ask a slightly different question. One is getting our content to move clients to the cart, right? Our customers to the cart. I worked with a retailer where 80% of our business came from loyalty. Okay. And so literally, about 80% of our business came from loyalty. So the question to you, Anant, is that when one has to look at content, not just from a cart perspective, but also from a loyalty perspective, and loyalty is dying. Let's all be honest. No longer is the consumer loyal to any brand. I mean, if I look at all our purchase cycles, and I'm not even going to the customer outside, I'm saying in this room, if I ask people what your purchase cycles are, I'm 100% sure I'll see very little loyalty. I may see habitual purchases, which I don't call loyalty, right? So if I'm used to buying a close-up, I will continue to buy it just because I'm too bored to move to a Colgate. That's not loyalty in the traditional sense. If I mean, not a choice, it's just default. So if I had to drive loyalty, which is active loyalty and not default loyalty, how does content play this role for active loyalty?
Like you kind of partly already said that it cannot be solved. It's kind of dying, and then you're asking me how to solve that.
Yeah, it is dying, and therefore the content needs to work that much harder to make sure that you're actively loyal to a brand.
No, correct. See, how I see this is that it is because that there are so many options which are there, and coming from an operations background, I always feel that content can always lead a consumer to a product. But if you have to create loyalty, content will not just kind of do it. You have to follow it up with the right set of execution, and have to give them the right service levels. So I think how content can play the role is because there's so many choices. You have to kind of tailor your content that you're always there amongst all the other new options which are created, so that the consumer always knows that, okay, you're still there, right? You're always there in that consideration set, but at the end of the day, you have to follow it up with the right, operations. For example, the delivery timelines which are there, or how you are kind of coming back to them, where if it is not purely e-commerce, even in the offline, the O2O channel, if they're getting the product, if at all they need some assistance, are you providing that assistance or not? And that assistance again can be through content. So you have to be present across, and that is probably can help you, kind of make them loyal, kind of keep them loyal to you. But yeah, that's all that I have to do.
So the brand has to work harder to buy loyalty, as in to earn loyalty. The brand has to really work hard to earn loyalty.
Absolutely. I mean, like there's like I said, there's so many options, and with e-commerce and with digital being there, it has become so easy. We have seen, especially during COVID, that D2C players have kind of ruled the roost, and they are pretty much they're fighting with all these legacy and traditional brands. And when it comes to it's kind of like the second leaf, I would say. So first leaf was during the period of 2012 2015, where all the manufacturers started developing their private labels, started coming on these marketplaces. And this time they started realizing that, okay, marketplace is now done and we are already there, we're present, we're getting those sales. How do we scale further? So let me develop my D2C channel. So now they're kind of directly servicing the customers. So that's the second leaf. So yeah, it becomes all the more imperative for the traditional brands to stay relevant to the consumer and be present through the content also across the entire cycle of purchase and delivery.
Okay. Farshid, you were making a comment or a point.
Yeah, I'd just like to extend Anand's point to say that loyalty in today's time, as you said, it's so difficult to get. The bottom line I feel that the customer asks for being loyal to you today is, are you making me feel special, and how? And this cannot be only solved by content, but can be solved, as Anand says, with every factor. Yes, content obviously being a part of every factor, right? In the service part of it, how do you write content? In the UX part of it, in the user journey part of it, how do you write simpler conversational content for me to transact on, so every part of the journey, right from sales to service to after sales, if I knit it well, and if I answer this question, how do you make me feel special as a brand? And if that question is answered, I think, you solve a lot of purpose in terms of loyalty.
It's just one more small point. So, for a brand which is already there and has a larger market share to their disposal, with the right content strategy, what they can do is that they can kind of delay and, still have that moat against the other, players which are coming in the market. So now Khurshid in the beginning was talking about Amul. Now, when we talk about dairy products, Amul already has that mind share. Now, all they have to do is just to be available when the consumer is kind of going around. That it keeps the cycle going on for them. So beyond that, they don't need to do anything, and it becomes really difficult for any other player to come and kind of usurp their market share so easily. That is where I think content plays, when we already have that loyalty built in.
Sheetal, just one more addition to this interesting discussion. My observation has been the fact that, clients today are not really looking at the holistic process, but rather looking at things in a very piecemeal and segmented manner, and yet trying to build that magic that the brand has to deliver. And that's where we go back to saying that, what is your overall strategy? Where does each of the piece fit in a clockwork manner for you to deliver that ultimate piece out there? Now, if I expect content to really do the job of loyalty, hey, there are 10,000 things that I should have fixed.
Absolutely.
No, correct. In fact, we were just kind of yesterday there was a discussion just going on where the playbook was launched for omni-channel. One very good statement that they made was that everybody wants to do omni-channel, but the guy who is in e-commerce does not know how to kind of go offline, or the guy who's already been who's been traditionally doing offline, acha website bana lete, and that's how they'll work. But that doesn't work that way. It's pretty much there with the content strategy.
Yeah, they walk some path when they realize that the other side is equally difficult.
True.
So the other question that I have to ask is that, budgets is always a constraint, right? For every client. There is only that much rupee to spend, and there is only that much that you can do. I'm just trying to understand that when I started, and we started in content many years ago, when we had to explain to client what a content meant, right? We didn't have too many clients who even understood why we were a content creation company. We were not a digital agency. So if we told a client we're not a digital agency, they would say, then what are you doing? We would say we would create specialized content for you, and then there would be a blank stare at our face, right? That's when we started identifying the need for content. And therefore, it was very challenging for us to get clients to allocate budgets to a content agency. They would give it to a digital agency. They would give it to the ad agency. They would give it to a print production house. But a content agency, what is your role? I'm just trying to understand that when if we are saying that clients are allocating more and more budgets to content, I'm also trying to understand, what do clients understand or expect from content, right? How do budgets get allocated to content? What is the expectation? Where does it come from? So Ankur, you can start, and then Marwa, I will come to you because you're the client. I want to understand your perspective on that. And
To be very honest, Sheetal, the answer to this question can be a very, very long rant, because it's a never-ending rant that I I can go on and on. But see, the budgets are, and again I'll go back to the same fundamental answer that I gave before. That the problem is defining the vision of the content. What do you want to achieve?
Right.
That is the starting point. Then, even when they allocate a particular budget, the expectation, like Indranil said, is a magic wand that abhi content dala, and tomorrow the sales will start ringing and we'll be we'll be a unicorn day after tomorrow. So it's that cycle that they're expecting, which no communication piece or no magic can deliver that. So what we try to do is, but there's a good side to it also. In last year, the way the clients have also sort of started to understand is that person who just visited them, said, "I'll do your blog in 500 rupees," is of no worth. So suddenly they now are asking us, "Okay, tell us the right solution." Okay, so we still have to walk a path where they will actually pay the right money for the right set of expectation from content. But it's not as bad as it was a year and a half ago, when it was like, hey, I have a couple of bloggers, they're going to do free content. I said that it's going to work just like free content. If you get a sale, thank God. If you don't get a sale, then just another piece of SEO rich copy that you have on your site, which is of no use. Plus, there is no synergy in the brand, that you have if you work with, these small. So no disrespect to them, but everything, if you have to make a magic, you require involvement. What that involvement costs money, because it's a team cost. It's a skill cost that we have brought onto the table. So things are improving. I would say from 30%, we are now at 60% now. It's still a while when clients really believe that, it's not like you get 5 blogs per month and then, your content strategy is done, checkbox and all.
Correct. Marwa, you had made at an earlier point, you had said that, getting the right people to write for you, the experts, the ability to be able to translate what the brand, the product, all of that is about, to bring that. How do clients evaluate that? One of our big challenges has been make a client understand that you need to get a domain expert to write.
You are right. Actually, the main challenges here is not only the budget, because budget are increasing. And during the last 5 years, especially probably this year in specific, the budgets are doubled. Because everyone understands that the content is a very core piece in your omni-channel communication in general. Whether it is a digital content or an offline content, whatever the content is. However, as you said, the main challenge is who should write for you the content. At some point, we started to say that, okay, go to a digital agency, they are specialized and they will find something.
Correct.
But it ended up to a very look-like content. It's really not authentic. And I think in order to differentiate yourself, you really need to be authentic. You really need to transfer the brand image in personalized, emotional, and in the same time differentiating way to transfer your unique selling propositions and all this story. We tried some copywriting, specialized companies, which is, to be honest, better. They are performing better because as we just talked about, to evaluate the content, you need first to know the objective and then set the KPIs, and it's easy to evaluate. It's not a rocket science.
Correct.
But the clients now, which is, I'm coming from a client perspective, let's say, going into more in-house copywriters. So instead of going to an agency, let's hire someone who works for your company and be a creative copywriter and do the job. So he has more opportunity to understand the brand, to have the 360-degree overview, the same
Right.
that Ankur just said, because you need to involve me more, you need to tell me more what you need. So this is the direction so far, to have an in-house copywriting. However, I tell you that I see the vision. After a couple of years, you will see, okay, how you grant that this in-house copywriter is creative enough. Let's find someone else.
Correct.
Let's involve more.
Okay. I'm just going to take a second to ask if there are any questions on the platform. So just give me a minute. I'm sure you all can continue to converse amongst yourselves. Give me a second, and I will come back to you on this. Give me a minute. So while I'm still receiving the questions, I also wanted to kind of understand, saying that as a client, when you have to drive, and yours is a very specialist kind of a product, how do you stay in touch with what your your consumers' changing requirements are? Sorry, have I mute myself by any chance? Marwa, the question was for you.
Sorry, it was the connection dropped, so I didn't hear the question.
Okay, I said yours is a very specialized product, right? Women would be very worried about skin and things like that. How do you keep in touch with the changing trends and the changing expectations of your consumers?
Okay, the main key here is always create the story consumer company, not company consumer. So consumer surveys, focus groups, one-to-one, and use, in the skin industry, there is a job called promoters, who are staying in the pharmacy and the POS and gathering a lot of insights. So whenever you start to do an activation or action or even content creation, despite that those ladies are not digital specialization, they are not content specialization, please always test your content with them, because they know very well even the language that you are using, because we use the local language, which is Arabic, and Arabic have probably 20 accents. So even addressing different accents is a key. So take the insights from your consumer, from your field team, because they are the one who can give you the dynamicity or the dynamic change of the consumer expectation. And they are also very critical, because they are criticized, but all their job is criticizing what the marketing is doing, which is very good. So they are always very sensitive to any word which is not okay, to any piece of content which is not okay. So just open your ears and listen from them, and here you can just go ahead with a really customer resonating story.
Ankur, a question for you, and Farshid, I'm going to end it on you. I also come from a research background, so I run a research company. But the thing is, advertising, I remember AdCeps used to happen and people used to test AdCeps, and there was a lot of things around research and testing. How are you seeing research and testing happening around content? Because it's one blog, one video, one whatever. How do you, and it's changing like at that pace. How is there an ability to build research and testing around? And I know there's A/B testing that is being done, but is there more than an A/B testing which is happening around content?
So, you see, I mean, there are tools and there are a lot of these things that are available. Some of them we even use, but I think more importantly, what we do is what Marwa also said, we attend these focus groups, or we have some tools that sort of give us these insights. and then we rely a lot on our sort of intuitive understanding of the subject, and we don't leave it entirely to some tools. While there are sometimes we test headline tools and all, which sort of give us which headline would be more click worthy. But again, what we've done is we've not created as a practice that, okay, only believe the tool, because sometimes, the tool is also learning from what has happened in the past. Sometimes, at a gut level that, this is something that is more relevant. And a lot of times we create content that are riding a moment marketing trend. Like, for example, a lockdown. There was so much content that we created around lockdown for an essential brand like Marico. When we did that, there was no tool to test, whether this will work or this will not work. It was an intuitive understanding. When the lockdown was happening, there was content around lockdown. When unlock was happening, we sort of changed the narrative to unlock. Same thing we did for Club Mahindra. So a lot of times you'll have to go with the, at the end of the day, as agency people, we bring the expertise. So there is some sort of intuitive understanding that we have. So tools are useful as a support system, but we don't completely rely on them sort of to deliver content and to deliver the results.
Okay. Farshid, as a client, how do you look at content and where do you see research, or how do you even judge whether you can pre-test content before putting it out there?
Very difficult to do that, very difficult question to answer. Uh, but to be very honest, what we do is while we create user journeys, especially on the website, we do focus groups, and in those focus groups, we don't only test, say, wireframes, but the content written around it, a content inside a box saying search your holiday or search holidays or only holidays is also very, very relevant. And that itself, happens through focus groups, happens through, A/B testing, as you mentioned. However, what I tend to focus in content is, as I said, I wear the SEO hat as well. So where I get research is what is trending in terms of not only contextual, but also what are the kind of keywords which are trending, what are the kind of topics which are trending, are they relevant to the brand? And then, the most important thing that I have realized is to calendarize this content and then to disseminate it at the right time is very, very important. As Ankur said and Anand said, it's not only about one, it is about relevancy and non-relevancy. The second is about when to touch the client, right? So there are companies, which can touch you for your birthday 2 months prior, and you start wondering why. There are companies like us, we might touch you, say, about 45 days prior, because obviously I want you to, travel with me on your birthday. So if I want you to travel, then I got to time it right? So one is timing it right, and then secondly, research comes in, as I said, as to what is, going to drive that traffic, going to increase my visitors, going to increase my, engagement, and then likely conversions.
Sheetal, I have a point, a small point to make. I think we need to figure out why we want to research. Do we want to research the stimulus, or do we want to research to get a better understanding of the target audience, their needs, and then design the information accordingly?
Okay.
In most of my experience, research comes towards the end part of it, when the brand team is kind of in that double mind, ye kaam karega ki nahi. But I would rather leverage research right at the beginning of the process to get a better understanding of the consumer mindset, and then I create my communication, which I know is then going to hit the bullseye.
Correct. So it's even the timing of the research which matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up our session. I thought I would summarize it, and I'm going to attempt it, okay? Because you guys have given so much of value add that it's a little difficult. So if you saw me a little distracted, it was because I was desperately desperately making notes to be able to summarize the session. So I think what we are all hearing is that the seriousness around content has now started to grow. Clients, brands have understood that there is need to invest in content. They are now looking at investing in content, and it's not just about the investments, it's also about the width of content that we're getting into. So from just the written word and blogs to now all kinds of content that's coming into it. I think that's one thing that everybody talks about. I think from an India perspective and also from a Middle East perspective, vernacular and the local language seems to be becoming very, very important if you want to connect with your audiences. So that's the second learning that we're I think the third one was really on metrics, which is saying that there's no point, the definition of metrics comes after the definition of objectives. So let's set our objectives right, and then the metrics will fall into place and we'll be able to course correct over it. I think a lot of people have talked about the different objectives, whether it is education, whether it is driving sales, whether it's driving people to put it into the cart, etc. Let's figure what our objectives are for the content and then drive the metrics. Content has a small role to play in loyalty building. It has a role, but it has a small role to play. Brands have to do much more, which is a 360-degree from product to experience to service to all of that. If they get it right, then can content drive loyalty? Otherwise, it's not going to be able to drive loyalty. And I think the last one, which we talked about, is yes, you need to research, you need to put money behind research, but it's really about understanding the consumer rather than researching the content piece itself. Content pieces, there are tools to do it, but don't let go of the intuitive and don't let go of the gut feel and don't over-engineer, the thinking behind creating the content. Have I missed out anything, guys?
No, I think it's perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't even know where that 1 hour and 15 minutes has kind of flown past. Thank you so much for being here. An absolute pleasure connecting with each one of you. And I'd love to stay connected, so I will do that. Thank you very much once again for being on this panel. Thank you so much. I have one more thing to add.
Thank you. Thank you, Shita.
All log off. I'm actually going to wrap, this session is going to wrap the 2 exciting days of ICS 2020. I'm going to actually take this opportunity to thank all of you, all the other speakers, all the attendees and all our partners. It's been a wonderful 2 days. In case you missed anything, right, especially for our viewers, if you missed anything, you can log into the platform anytime in the next 2 days and view the recording of all the live sessions and visit partner. And last but not the least, if we've talked so much about content, we would love to get feedback. Please give us your feedback on it. This is all coming to you from ICS. Thank you, guys. Wonderful 1 hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank
Have a
you.
great evening. Bye.
Bye. Bye.